Jason Marshall leaned back in his chair, stretching out the kinks from hours of staring at his monitors. The space station Zenith, hovering in orbit around the vibrant planet Illyria, had been his home for the past 6 months. As a xenobiologist, his mission was to study the planet's exotic flora and fauna from afar, a job that often felt more like solitary confinement than pioneering research. The hum of the station was a constant companion. Air filters, computer servers, the distant thrum of engines. It was late. The crew's chatter had long since quieted down, leaving Jason in his preferred state, alone with his work. But tonight, the solitude felt heavier, the silence too profound. "Maybe I'll call it a night," Jason muttered, shutting down his terminals. He pushed away from the desk, his chair rolling smoothly on the polished metal floor. Walking through the narrow corridors of the station, he made his way to the small bathroom attached to his quarters. After a quick, hot shower, the foggy mirror and the warmth provided a small comfort from the chill of space. Wrapping a towel around his waist, he wiped the mirror clear and ran a hand through his damp hair. Just as he turned to leave, a soft, pulsating light filled the room, a light with no discernible source. Jason's eyes widened, and his heart raced. Before he could react, the light coalesced into a figure standing right in his room. It flickered for a moment, stabilizing into the form of a person, a very distinctly non-human person. The alien was slender, taller than him, with iridescent skin that shimmered with its own gentle luminescence. Her eyes, large and expressive, reflected a curious intelligence. She wore a seamless garment that resembled liquid silver, clinging to her form. Jason, remembering his state of undress, instinctively pulled the towel tighter around his waist. Hello," he stammered, unsure of what one says in the face of first contact made while practically naked. The alien tilted her head, her lips parting in a tentative smile. "Hello, Jason Marshall. I am Lyra of Illyria," she replied, her voice melodic yet resonant, echoing strangely in the small room. "You know my name?" Jason blinked in surprise. "How is this possible? How did you get here?" Lyra stepped forward, her movements graceful and fluid. "I apologize for the abrupt intrusion. My arrival was unintended. Our teleportation technology is still experimental. Your name and presence were identified through your station's broadcasts." Jason's mind raced. Teleportation? Actual alien contact? This was beyond anything he had trained for. "I see. And, does anyone else know you're here?" "Not yet," she said, looking around curiously. "I have not interacted with any others." It seemed prudent to understand more before doing so, right? "Prudent," Jason echoed, feeling anything but. He glanced at the door, half expecting it to burst open with security personnel at any second. "Look, this is a lot to process. You appearing here, out of nowhere, in my well, while I'm like this. I'm not even dressed properly." Lyra looked down at herself and then at his towel, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "I find no fault in your attire given the circumstances of private quarters. I am here to learn, not to judge." "Okay, then. First things first, let's get you out of here and somewhere more private where we can figure out what to do next," Jason said, quickly slipping into some clothes. "Follow me, and try to be discreet. If you can do whatever you did to get here, maybe you can avoid being seen." Lyra nodded, her form shimmering slightly as if adjusting to his suggestion. Jason opened the door, peeking out into the corridor. "Come on, let's go to the lab. It's secure, and we can talk more there." As they stepped out, Jason couldn't help but marvel at the surrealness of the situation. An alien in his room, an unexpected guest from the stars. It was every scientist's dream, unfolding in the most bizarre way imaginable. But as they moved through the dimly lit halls of the Zenith, a part of him felt the thrill of the unknown, of possibilities he hadn't even begun to imagine. Jason led Lyra through the silent corridors of the space station Zenith, their footsteps echoing softly. The lab was not far, but every meter felt stretched by the tension of the unexpected visitor's presence. "Here we are," Jason whispered as he typed in his access code. The door slid open with a soft whoosh, revealing a room filled with high-tech equipment and digital displays showing various biological data. This is my main research lab. We won't be disturbed here. Lyra stepped inside, her eyes scanning the myriad of screens and gadgets. Your technology is similar yet distinct from ours, she remarked, moving towards a microscope setup. Fascinating. Jason followed her gaze. Yeah, well, it's mostly for studying cellular structures and genetic material from Illyria. Never thought I'd have a visitor from there to show it to. He chuckled nervously. Can I get you anything? Water, or whatever your equivalent is. No sustenance is required, thank you, Lyra said, her attention still on the equipment. My body sustains itself on light and simple atmospheric elements. I am more interested in learning about your work and how our unexpected meeting can provide mutual insights. Jason leaned against a counter, trying to process everything. Mutual insights, right? Well, I specialize in xenobiology, but you're my first live subject, or guest, I should say, from another planet. How exactly did you end up here in my room? Lyra turned to face him, her expression earnest. A malfunction during my teleportation practice. I was supposed to teleport to our orbital station around Illyria, but ended up here. Your station's coordinates intersected with our trajectory somehow. That's one heck of a glitch, Jason mused. And it's just you? No one else got transported. Just me. It was a solo test. My people are likely trying to ascertain my location now. Lyra paused, then added, It's imperative we establish communication with them to clarify this incident and ensure my return. Jason nodded, his mind racing. We should probably contact my commander, explain the situation. He'll want to talk to you, and we need to get ahead of this before it turns into an interstellar incident. As if on cue, the lab door chimed softly, and another figure entered. A man in standard station uniform, his face marked by curiosity. Jason, I saw your lab lights on. Everything okay here? Ah, Mark, perfect timing. Jason gestured to Lyra. This is Lyra, from Illyria. She, teleported here by accident. Mark's eyebrows shot up. Teleported? That's new. He extended his hand, a gesture of greeting tempered with caution. Mark Thompson, Station Security. How can we assist you, Lyra? Lyra mimicked the handshake, her touch light. I seek to establish communication with my planet to rectify my accidental arrival. Any assistance would be appreciated. Right. Let's set up a secure line in the communications bay, Mark suggested, turning to Jason. You coming? Jason nodded. Yeah. Let's sort this out quickly. Together, the trio left the lab, heading towards the communications bay. Jason couldn't help but feel a mix of anxiety and excitement. The station was about to become the bridge between two worlds, and he was right at the heart of it. As they walked, Lyra remained calm, her eyes observing every detail around her. Your cooperation is invaluable. I am here unexpectedly, yet you offer help rather than hostility. Mark chuckled softly. Well, we're all about making history here, not enemies. Let's figure out how to get you back home safely. Jason smiled, reassured by his colleague's words. Perhaps this unexpected encounter could indeed become a groundbreaking moment of peaceful and productive interstellar relations. But first, they needed to make contact with Lyra's people and explain the curious case of the alien who appeared in a xenobiologist's room, naked, no less. Jason, Mark, and Lyra arrived at the communications bay, a room lined with panels of blinking lights and screens that displayed streams of data. Jason logged into the station's communication system, initiating the protocols to secure a channel that could reach Illyria. Mark watched over Jason's shoulder. This is beyond any protocol we've ever practiced. Contacting another planet's civilization? It's usually stuff of sci-fi. Lyra, standing beside them, seemed unfazed. On Illyria, we dream of reaching out to others in the cosmos. It seems our dreams are not so different, only our means of achieving them. Jason focused on the task, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the keyboard. Okay, we're set. Lyra, you'll need to guide the transmission based on your planet's technology. Can you interface with our system? Yes, I believe so, Lyra responded, stepping forward to examine the setup. She placed her hands on the console, her fingers moving with precision. My people use quantum entanglement for instant communication. It's much faster than radio waves. Mark raised an eyebrow. Quantum what now? Entanglement. It's a kind of non-local link between particles. What happens to one, happens to the other, no matter the distance, Jason explained, impressed by the concept. Fascinating, Mark muttered. Makes our tech look prehistoric. After a few minutes of adjustments, Lyra nodded. I have established a preliminary link. We should be able to send a message. Go ahead, Jason said, stepping back to give her space. Lyra spoke into the microphone, her voice steady. This is Lyra of Illyria, currently aboard human space station Zenith. Due to a teleportation mishap, I have unintentionally arrived here. I am safe and in no distress. Awaiting instructions. They waited in silence, the tension in the room palpable. Minutes ticked by, feeling longer with each passing second. Finally, a crackle over the speaker, and then a voice, alien yet unmistakable. Lyra, this is Director Gyron of Illyrian Command. Confirming receipt of your message. We are relieved to hear of your safety. Preparing for your retrieval. Lyra's face lit up with relief. Acknowledged, Director Gyron. I am in cooperation with the humans here. They have offered their assistance. Understood. Maintain communication. We will coordinate with your hosts for your return. Gyron out. The line went dead, leaving the room in a brief silence before Jason let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Well, that went smoothly enough. Yeah, no kidding, Mark agreed. Looks like you'll be heading home soon, Lyra. Must be a relief. Lyra nodded, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. Yes, it is a relief, but this has also been an incredible experience. Humans are fascinating. Jason smiled. We're glad to have met you too, Lyra. Even if it was by accident, there's still some time before they can retrieve you, Mark pointed out. Maybe we can learn a bit more from each other. What do you say, Lyra? Care to join us for a tour of the station? Maybe share more about your technology? I would like that very much, Lyra said, her smile returning. There is much we can learn from each other. And so, the trio spent the rest of the evening exploring the station. Lyra was curious about everything, from their scientific equipment to their recreational facilities. In return, she explained more about Illyrian culture and technology, fascinating her human hosts with tales of advanced sciences and peaceful explorations. As they walked through the corridors of Zenith, Jason realized that this unexpected encounter might just be the beginning of a beautiful friendship between two worlds. Despite the initial shock and the challenges, the night had turned into a memorable exchange of knowledge and culture, a true night of discovery. Jason, Mark, and Lyra concluded their tour of the station at the observation deck, a spacious room with large windows that offered a panoramic view of the vastness of space and the swirling blue and green hues of Illyria below. As much as I've been out here, Mark said, leaning against the railing, the view never gets old. It kind of puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the planet's glow. It's beautiful. From orbit, the conflicts and divisions of a world seem so distant. On Illyria, too, we often forget to step back and appreciate our home. Jason joined them at the window. It's similar for us. It's easy to get caught up in our work and forget the bigger picture. Speaking of which, has seeing Earth from space changed your view of your own planet? In many ways, yes, Lyra replied. Seeing Earth and interacting with you has expanded my understanding of what it means to be a part of the cosmos. We are not so different, you and I, or our people. Mark chuckled softly. I guess the universe isn't as big as we thought, huh? Perhaps it's vast, but less lonely, Lyra suggested, turning her gaze from the window to her human companions. The conversation paused as a crew member entered, a tray of drinks in hand. Thought you folks might want some refreshments, he said, placing it on a nearby table. Thanks, Pete, Jason said, picking up a cup. Join us. Lyra was just sharing some insights about her world. Pete nodded, pouring himself a drink before joining the group by the window. I heard about our special visitor. Must be quite the change from your daily routines. It is, Lyra agreed, accepting a cup from Jason. And yet, discussing our lives, I find we share many concerns. Preservation of our environments, advancements in technology, the health of our people. It's the same everywhere, I guess, Pete said. Whether it's Earth or Illyria, some things are universal. Jason sipped his drink, thinking over the conversations of the evening. Lyra, you mentioned your people use quantum entanglement for communication. How does that work for personal communication? Is it like our internet? Lyra explained. It's more integrated. Each individual can connect to our network mentally. It allows not only for the sharing of information, but also for a kind of communal empathy, feeling and understanding the emotions of others. Communal empathy, wow. That could solve a lot of misunderstandings, Mark noted, intrigued. Or create new ones, Pete added with a laugh. Lyra smiled. It has its challenges, but it helps keep our society harmonious. What about Earth? How do you manage conflicts and ensure mutual understanding? Jason exchanged a glance with Mark. Not as advanced as that, I'm afraid. We use diplomacy laws, sometimes force. It's imperfect, but we're always working on it. Humanity's got a knack for muddling through, Mark said. We make it up as we go along. That adaptability is admirable, Lyra said. In some ways, it is not unlike our methods, just less telepathic. As the conversation deepened, the group discussed various aspects of human and Illyrian culture, technology, and philosophy. Each topic brought new insights, revealing how much they could learn from one another. Eventually, the gathering broke up as duty calls pulled the crew members away, leaving Jason and Lyra alone by the window. You've given us a lot to think about, Lyra, Jason said thoughtfully. This exchange has been invaluable. I feel the same, Jason, Lyra replied, her gaze lingering on the planet below. Despite the accident that brought me here, I am grateful for this opportunity. It has opened pathways for future exchanges between our worlds. Jason nodded, a sense of camaraderie forming. Here's hoping this is just the beginning. As they stood together, looking out at the stars, a silent agreement was forged between them. Whatever the future held, the bonds formed today would lay the groundwork for a lasting friendship, one that could hopefully extend beyond just the two of them to encompass both their worlds. After the others had left, Jason and Lyra remained at the observation deck, both seemingly reluctant to end the night. The stars outside cast a serene glow inside the room, surrounding them in a soft, ambient light. I've learned so much tonight, Lyra began, her voice low. Not just about human technology, but about humanity itself. There's a warmth in your people that I didn't anticipate. Jason smiled, feeling a pang of something deeper stir within him. And we've learned a lot from you, too. It's not every day we get to meet someone from another world who can teach us a new way of seeing things. They moved closer to the windows, watching a meteor shower sprinkle the black canvas with streaks of light. It's beautiful, isn't it? Jason said, pointing towards the fleeting trails. It is, Lyra agreed, her eyes reflecting the starlight. In Illyria, we believe that watching meteors is a moment to reveal hidden truths, as if the universe is opening up to those who watch. Hidden truths, huh? Jason mused. I think tonight has been full of those. There was a pause, charged with an unspoken understanding. Slowly, their hands found each other, tentative at first but growing confident. Jason turned to face Lyra, his heart thumping loudly in his chest. Lyra, he started, but the words tangled on his tongue. Lyra placed a finger on his lips, her smile gentle. No need for words, Jason. I feel it too. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the universe seemed to pause, the weight of their different worlds momentarily forgotten. Slowly, Jason leaned in, and their lips met in a kiss that was exploratory at first but soon deepened with passion. As they pulled away, breathless, Lyra touched Jason's cheek. This is forbidden, isn't it? She whispered. I mean, I don't even know the rules for this. Jason chuckled, his nerves easing slightly. I don't think there are any rules for something like this. But yes, it's probably not standard protocol, but it feels right, doesn't it? Lyra asked, her voice hopeful. It does. More than right, Jason admitted, his hand caressing her face. But we should be careful. If this were to complicate your return. Lyra nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation. Let's just live in this moment then, without worrying about the future. They spent the next few hours together, talking softly, sharing stories of their planets, their hopes and fears, and occasionally pausing to revel in another kiss, another embrace. Each touch was a discovery, a celebration of their connection that transcended species and space. As the night wore on, they finally made their way back to Jason's quarters, where the privacy allowed them to explore their feelings further. There, in the quiet sanctum of his room, they experienced the full extent of their attraction, navigating their differences with a mixture of curiosity and affection. When dawn broke across the planet below, casting a blue glow through the window, they lay together in silence, a mix of satisfaction and melancholy filling the air. Jason stroked Lyra's hair, the strands shimmering slightly under his touch. "What happens when you go back?" he asked quietly. Lyra turned to look at him, her expression serene yet sad. "I don't know, but I will carry this night with me, Jason. No matter where I go, this I promise you." "And I you," Jason replied, his voice thick with emotion. "You've changed how I see the universe, Lyra. No matter what comes next, I won't forget this." As they prepared for the day, the reality of their situation settled back in, but the bond they had formed was unbreakable. They had shared something extraordinary, a single night of forbidden yet undeniable connection that would forever change them both. The morning after their night together, Jason and Lyra found themselves in the station's cafeteria, a common area filled with the hum of conversation and the clatter of dishes. Despite the ordinary setting, there was a palpable shift in how they regarded one another, a shared secret that added depth to their smiles. Jason poured them both a cup of coffee, his hands slightly unsteady. "I didn't sleep much," he admitted, pushing a cup towards Lyra, who took it with a nod of thanks. "Neither did I," Lyra responded, her voice soft but clear. "I was thinking about everything about us." Jason took a seat opposite her, searching her face for signs of regret. But all he saw was a thoughtful serenity. "And? What conclusions did you come to?" Lyra sipped her coffee, considering her words. "That I don't regret a single moment, that I wish we had more time, and that I'm concerned about how this might affect my return." Jason reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "We'll handle it together. Whatever comes, we'll face it as a team." Their conversation was interrupted by Mark, who slid into the seat next to Jason with a curious glance between the two. "Morning, you two. You both look well, like you've had quite a night. Everything okay?" Jason and Lyra exchanged a quick glance, a silent agreement passing between them. "We're fine, Mark," Jason replied with a cautious smile. "Just a lot on our minds with the whole teleportation issue." Mark nodded, though his eyes lingered on their hands for a moment longer before he changed the subject. "Well, I've got news. The Illyrians have made contact again. They're ready to set up a retrieval operation for Lyra. Looks like they're sending a delegation to negotiate the terms in person." Lyra's expression tightened slightly, but she maintained her composure. "That's good news. I hope to facilitate a smooth dialogue between our peoples." "That's the spirit," Mark said, upbeat. "And speaking of dialogues, I think it might be good for us to strategize about what you two, well, all of us, should discuss with them when they arrive." The remainder of their breakfast was spent in tactical discussion, planning how to present Lyra's accidental arrival and their subsequent interactions in a way that would foster understanding and cooperation between the humans and Illyrians. After breakfast, Jason and Lyra walked together to the lab, their steps slow as they navigated through their mixed emotions. "Mark seems to suspect something," Lyra mentioned quietly. Jason sighed. "He's observant, but he's also our friend. I trust him to respect our privacy." Once inside the lab, they reviewed the data and samples that Jason had collected from Illyria. Lyra was fascinated by his interpretations and offered her own insights, which deepened Jason's understanding of the data. As they worked, their conversation drifted back to personal matters. Jason showed Lyra some of the basic human sciences and technologies, explaining concepts that were mundane to him but novel to her. In turn, Lyra shared more about Illyrian culture, their philosophy of life, and their scientific achievements. The day passed in a blur of shared work and intimate conversations, their bond strengthening with each passing hour. When it was time to part ways for the evening, neither wanted to say goodbye. "Tonight was invaluable," Lyra said as they stood at the door of the lab. Not just for the science, but for us. Jason nodded, his voice thick with emotion. I'll walk you to your quarters. They walked in silence, each step heavy with the knowledge that their time together was drawing to a close. When they reached her door, Jason turned to Lyra, taking her hands in his. No matter what happens tomorrow, I want you to know that what we shared has changed me, he said earnestly. Lyra leaned in, kissing him gently. And me. You've opened my world in ways I never imagined. They lingered in their farewell, reluctant to part. When they finally did, it was with a promise to face the next day, and whatever it would bring, together. The next morning, the air in the space station Zenith was charged with anticipation. Jason and Lyra met early in the main conference room, a large, window-lined chamber where the station's crew often gathered for important briefings. Today, it was to host the meeting with the Illyrian delegation, set to arrive within the hour. Mark joined them, carrying a stack of digital tablets filled with notes and agreements. Okay, team, he started, setting the tablets down with a clatter. We've got to be clear, concise, and honest. The Illyrians will appreciate transparency, especially considering the peculiar circumstances of Lyra's visit. Jason nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. Right. We'll explain the accident, our initial interactions, and emphasize our hope to establish peaceful and productive relations. Lyra, looking more composed than either of the men, added, I will reassure them of your kindness and the potential for mutual learning. I believe they will see the value in what has happened here. As they finalized their preparations, the sound of a docking alert chimed through the station. They're here, Mark announced, moving toward the viewport to see the Illyrian ship, a sleek vessel that radiated a soft, silver glow, attached to the station's external port. The trio made their way to the airlock to greet the visitors. The doors hissed open, revealing 3 Illyrians dressed in flowing robes that shimmered like Lyra's had when Jason first met her. The leader of the delegation, a tall, dignified figure with piercing eyes, stepped forward. I am Soren, the Illyrian ambassador. He introduced himself, his voice carrying a melodic tone similar to Lyra's. We are here to ensure the safe return of our citizen and to understand the nature of her arrival. Jason stepped forward, extending a hand. I'm Jason Marshall, and this is Mark Thompson. We've been assisting Lyra since her arrival. We are pleased to meet you and hope for a friendly resolution. Soren nodded, accepting the handshake with a slight hesitation, an Illyrian gesture of peace, as Lyra had explained. Thank you, Jason Marshall. We are grateful for your care of Lyra. Let us discuss the circumstances. They moved to the conference room, where the serious discussion took place. Jason and Mark detailed the accident, the protocols they followed, and their interactions with Lyra. Lyra spoke of her experiences positively, emphasizing the humans' efforts to assist and understand her. Soren listened intently, occasionally interjecting with questions or clarifications. Your actions show a commendable level of respect and cooperation, he finally said. It is more than we have observed in many other first contacts. Relief washed over Jason and Mark at his words. We're glad to hear that. We hope this can be the beginning of a broader dialogue between our people, Mark responded, his voice hopeful. Yes, the potential is considerable, Soren agreed, his gaze shifting to Lyra. However, the nature of this incident requires us to consider future precautions to prevent such accidents and ensure the safety of all involved. The meeting continued with discussions on protocols for future interactions, emergency procedures, and the possibility of collaborative projects. Jason found himself increasingly involved in the technical discussions, suggesting joint research initiatives and exchange programs. As the meeting drew to a close, Soren turned to Lyra. We will prepare for your return journey. Your experience, while unintended, may serve as a catalyst for greater understanding between our worlds. Lyra nodded, a mix of sadness and resolve in her eyes. She looked at Jason, her expression conveying a world of thanks and a promise of remembrance. After the Illyrians left, Jason, Mark, and Lyra stood together in the now quiet conference room. Well, that went about as well as we could have hoped, Jason said, trying to mask his melancholy with a light tone. Yes, Lyra agreed softly. I am grateful to both of you. Without your help, this could have been much more difficult. We're going to miss you, Lyra, Mark said, clapping Jason on the shoulder. But who knows? Maybe this isn't goodbye. Maybe it's just until next time. Jason nodded, offering Lyra a smile. Until next time. As they walked Lyra back to her quarters, there was a sense of an ending, but also the beginning of something new. A bridge between two previously unconnected worlds, forged in the most unexpected way. The morning of Lyra's departure arrived too soon for Jason. He found himself outside her quarters, waiting to escort her to the docking bay where the Illyrian ship was prepared for the return journey. The station felt unusually quiet, as if it too sensed the significance of the farewell. Mark joined him, carrying a small device in his hand. I've set up a direct communication link with the Illyrians, he said, handing the device to Jason, so we can keep the conversations going. It's the least we can do. Jason nodded, accepting the device with gratitude. Thanks, Mark. I wasn't ready to let go completely. Neither was I, Mark admitted. Who would have thought we'd be making friends with someone from another planet this way? The door to Lyra's quarters opened, and she stepped out, her silver garment shimmering under the station's lights. She looked serene, but the tightness around her eyes betrayed her emotions. It is time, she said simply. Together, the trio walked down the corridors leading to the docking bay. The walk was slow, each step heavy with the weight of imminent departure. As they entered the docking bay, Soren and the other Illyrians greeted them. The ambience was formal yet tinged with a mutual respect that had grown from the recent negotiations. Soren approached Jason first. Jason Marshall, your actions have not only saved a valuable member of our community, but have also paved the way for future collaboration between our worlds. I'm just glad I could help, Jason replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I hope this is just the beginning of our interactions. We share that hope, Soren affirmed, then turned to Lyra. Are you ready to return, Lyra? Lyra looked back at Jason and Mark, her expression softening. I am ready, though it is with a heavy heart that I leave. Jason, Mark, you have both become more than just the humans who helped me. You are my friends, and you are ours, Mark said warmly. Don't be a stranger, okay? I shall endeavor not to be, Lyra smiled. Jason stepped forward, pulling Lyra into a brief, tight embrace. Take care of yourself, Lyra. I will. And you too, Jason. Remember, the universe isn't as vast as it seems, she whispered back. Pulling away, Lyra then turned and walked toward the Illyrian ship, her posture regal but her steps reluctant. At the airlock, she paused, turning to wave one last time before disappearing into the vessel. The airlock door closed, and the soft hum of the ship starting echoed through the bay. Jason and Mark stood side by side, watching as the Illyrian ship detached from zenith and moved away into the star-studded blackness of space. After a few moments of silence, Mark spoke. You okay, man? Jason let out a slow breath, his gaze still fixed on where the ship had been. Yeah, I'm okay. It's just, that was one incredible experience, wasn't it? It was, Mark agreed, clapping Jason on the back. Come on, let's go grab a drink. I need to process all this. Yeah, a drink sounds good, Jason agreed, finally tearing his eyes away from the window. As they walked back through the corridors of Zenith, Jason felt a mix of sadness and fulfillment. The station might return to its routine, but he knew he wouldn't be the same. He carried with him not just memories but a new perspective, a realization of how closely interconnected the universe could be. The bond formed with Lyra, though brief, had changed him, and he knew it had the potential to change the world. Whatever the future held, Jason was ready to face it, inspired by the promise of new horizons and the potential for further contact between humans and Illyrians. The end of Lyra's visit was not an ending but the dawn of new possibilities.